Dr. Lee Clare, director of excavations at Göbekli Tepe, watched the video with his head in his hands. For 20 years, his team had been publishing peer-reviewed studies, documenting the site, analyzing remains, all publicly available. And now, one YouTube video with zero scientific sources was convincing millions of people that the builders weren't human. "We weren't being accused of hiding evidence," Claire later told me. "We were being told that the evidence itself proved something we knew wasn't true." The question was no longer just archaeological. It was about how misinformation spreads, and why people found aliens more believable than extraordinary humans. Claire decided to fight back. But first he needed to understand, where did this conspiracy come from? And why was it so persuasive? But recent analyses of skeletal remains found near the site have reopened one of archaeology's most controversial questions. Bones with unfamiliar proportions, skulls that defy expectation, and DNA data that has been widely misunderstood. Were the builders of Göbekli Tepe truly modern humans, or representatives of a human lineage we barely recognize today? At the Göbekli Tepe excavation headquarters in Şanlıurfa, Turkey, Dr. Lee Clare watched the theory spread with a mixture of frustration and disbelief. Clare, an archaeologist who had spent years documenting stone enclosures and cataloguing animal carvings, had seen conspiracy theories before. But this one felt different. "We weren't being accused of hiding evidence," he later said. "We were being told that the evidence itself proved something we knew wasn't true." For Claire, the question was no longer just about archaeology. It was about how misinformation spreads faster than scholarship, and why the public found the idea of non-human builders more convincing than decades of scientific work. Göbekli Tepe sits on a limestone ridge in southeastern Anatolia. The earliest structures date to around 9,600 BCE, at the very end of the last ice age. Massive T-shaped pillars, some weighing more than 20 tons, form circular enclosures, decorated with reliefs of foxes, snakes, birds, and abstract symbols. When the site was first excavated in the 1990s by the late Dr. Klaus Schmidt, it forced archaeologists to rewrite a foundational assumption: that monumental architecture only emerged after agriculture. Göbekli Tepe was built by hunter-gatherers. There were no permanent houses, no fields, no domesticated animals. Equally strange was what the site lacked. There were no cemeteries, no obvious burials, no signs of everyday domestic life. Göbekli Tepe appeared to be a place people visited, not a place they lived. That absence became fertile ground for speculation. If the builders were human, where were their bodies? If they were so advanced, why did they leave behind no villages? The answers, archaeologists would discover, lay not only at Göbekli Tepe itself, but across the wider Taş Tepeler region, where dozens of similar ritual sites were slowly being uncovered. As excavations expanded to sites like Karahan Tepe and Sayburs, human remains began to appear, but not in neat graves. Instead, archaeologists found skull fragments, jawbones, and long bones scattered in secondary contexts. Some had cut marks, others had been deliberately repositioned. To a trained physical anthropologist, these remains were unusual but not alarming. They showed signs of intense physical stress, nutritional hardship, and heavy muscle attachment. Some skulls appeared elongated, others had exceptionally thick cranial bones. Step 1. Selective cropping. Scale bars removed to exaggerate size. Step 2. Digital reconstruction. Broken parts filled in, elongation exaggerated. Step 3. Unfair comparison. Ice Age skulls compared to modern sedentary humans. Step 4. Cherry-picked measurements. Cranial index misrepresented Dr. Clare. This is a 12,000-year-old skull from a person who walked 20 miles a day, ate primarily meat, and died around age 35 from an infected tooth. Of course, it looks different from a 21st century human who sits at a desk. There is enormous variation in early human populations, Claire explained. If you take fragmentary remains and compare them only to people alive today, you're guaranteed to see difference. Difference, however, does not equal non-human. The not human theory did not originate in academic journals. It originated in the gap between how science communicates and how social media rewards attention. In 2018, an amateur documentary claiming that Göbekli Tepe showed evidence of giants, or another species, crossed 4 million views. The same year, a peer-reviewed paper explaining cranial variation in early Holocene Anatolia was downloaded fewer than 300 times. The algorithm favored mystery over nuance. Dr. Clare and his colleagues tried to respond. They gave interviews, they published blog posts. They appeared in educational videos explaining how skull deformation, childhood stress, and Ice Age lifestyles affect bone structure. But debunking is slow. Misinformation is fast. Extraordinary humans doing extraordinary things sounds boring, Clare admitted. Aliens sound exciting. By 2020, Göbekli Tepe, not human, was auto-completing in search engines. The myth had outpaced the science. One claim appeared repeatedly in conspiracy videos, that DNA analysis had already proven the builders were not human. This claim had a fatal flaw. For years, no such DNA analysis existed. Ancient DNA is notoriously difficult to recover, especially from remains exposed to heat and microbial activity. Most early claims cited blog posts or documentaries, not scientific papers. That changed in 2019. At the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology, geneticist Dr. Ayşe Özdoğan stared at the sequencing data on her screen. For months, her team had been attempting to extract usable DNA from a skull fragment recovered near Karahan Tepe. Most attempts failed. DNA degrades. Contamination is constant. Success is rare. But this sample held. When the software finished processing, Özdoğan checked the haplogroup classification. Homo sapiens. She cross-referenced the sequence against Neanderthal and Denisovan genomes. Nothing unusual appeared. It was human, she later said. Completely, unambiguously human. The conspiracy theory collapsed instantly. But then, Özdoğan ran the genome through population comparison models, and something unexpected emerged. This individual did not cluster with modern Middle Eastern populations, nor with later Neolithic farmers. The genetic distance was vast. They were human, Özdoğan wrote in her paper, but they represented a deeply divergent lineage. Further analyses revealed that the people associated with Göbekli Tepe belonged to isolated hunter-gatherer populations that had been separated for thousands of years. Early human genetic diversity was far greater than it is today. Many of these groups left little or no genetic legacy. As agriculture spread, farming populations expanded rapidly, absorbing or replacing earlier hunter-gatherers. Entire lineages vanished. Extinction created the illusion of otherness. They weren't aliens, Özdoğan explained in a later interview. They were humans whose descendants simply didn't survive. Physical anthropologists emphasize that these people lived under extreme conditions. Ice Age climates, high mobility, nutritional stress, and intense labor shaped their bodies. Cranial shape can be altered by genetics, environment, and culture. Intentional head shaping was practiced in some regions. Childhood stress alone can dramatically change skull development. Comparing these remains to modern humans is like comparing marathon runners to office workers. The difference is real, but it is human. In 2024, Özdoğan's team published a comprehensive analysis of 47 individuals from pre-pottery Neolithic Anatolia. The conclusion was definitive. All were Homo sapiens. But they represented multiple genetic populations that no longer exist. When asked about the persistent conspiracy theories, Özdoğan did not dismiss them. "I understand why people want them to be something else," she said. "Because if they were just humans like us, then we have to confront an uncomfortable truth. That truth is that early humans were capable of organizing massive labor, sustaining shared belief systems, and building monuments without cities, writing, or metal. That's scarier than aliens," Özdoğan added, "because it means we've underestimated ourselves." Göbekli Tepe was not built by beings beyond humanity. It was built by humans whose world disappeared before history recorded their names. The skulls are not evidence of a lost species. They are evidence of a lost diversity. The real mystery is not who built Göbekli Tepe. It is how easily we forget what humans have always been capable of, and how quickly we give that credit to anything except our